So here we're going to learn kind of how to deal with square roots and get a little bit of better understanding of how they work. So the important thing to remember, right, is if you have square roots, as long as they're being multiplied or divided, you're actually allowed to do whatever you want. So for example, like this is the square root of 10 times the square root of 2. We're actually allowed to bring these two things under the same square root, right, to give me the square root of 20. Now it's important to keep in mind that I can actually go the other way, right? So I could even say the square root of 20, I actually want that to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 5, right? All three of these things are equal, right? But thinking of it like this can help me because then I can simplify that to 2 root 5, okay? Same thing goes with division and square roots. I'm actually allowed to separate these two things if I want to. So I can think of this as, instead of the square root of 25 divided by 9 all under the same square root, I could say that's the square root of 25 over the square root of 9. And thinking of it like this is actually really useful because these are both perfect squares. So the square root of 25 is just 5, and the square root of 9 is just 3. So I've just simplified this thing to be 5 over 3. Okay? So using these rules up here, now how do we simplify square roots? So if I see the square root of 50, right, what I'm trying to think of is something like the scenario we had up here, where basically we're trying to break it down into two square roots. And I'm trying to think of any factors that are perfect squares, right? Because I could break the square root of 50 down into the square root of 5 times the square root of 10. But neither 5 nor 10 are really perfect squares, so that doesn't help too much. What would be better is if I think of this as the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. Right? The reason this is slightly better is because the square root of 25 is a perfect square, right? So we can rewrite this as 5, right? The square root of 25 is just 5, and we still have times root 2. And that's as simple as we can get, right? Because root 2 doesn't go down any further. So that's basically how I would think about simplifying square roots. Find two factors, right? That you can split it up into, and see if one of those factors you can make a perfect square, so that you can simplify that down into something like 5 root 2.